We're having in this week's Parsha Shlach Lecha Nashim, which we learn about how Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, you may, if you'd like to, you may send spies to go and check out the land of Israel. And as we know, or some we learned, one time others, the spies came back with not the best of reports, to put it lightly, and all the follow-up that came from them. So let's start off. Okay, go. I want to skip this time to page 3. Go to this page 3. And we're going to start over there. And I'll come back to the other parts at the end.
Tzitzit, the Rebbe. As discussed many times, the primary theme of every Torah portion is hinted at in its name. The same is true regarding this week's portion, which is called Shelach. This name must express the central idea of all the sections contained in the portion. This raises a question. The episode of the spies is merely part of the narrative, an event that took place while the Jewish people were in the desert. It is not a mitzvah that we are obliged to observe. Later sections of the portion this portion contain mitzvot that apply for all the generations. Most notably, the section at the end of the portion contains the mitzvah of tzitzit, an overarching mitzvah that leads us to remember all 613 commitments, as the verse states. When you see it, you'll remember all the commandments of Hashem. How can it be that the episode of the spies, which is only a story, is the one which lends its name to the entire portion and be considered more significant than the mitzvot found in this portion, including the mitzvot of tzitzit, which encompasses all 613 mitzvot? How can we say that the name Shelach expresses the central theme of the whole portion?
So we're asking the following. The name of something, especially explained in the Chassidut, really reflects this essence. The name reflects this essence. The person's name is reflecting the essence of the person. As the Baal Shem Tov taught that our spiritual energy, what really makes us be, is our name. Is the name. And the name of everything that exists in the world. That's like the conduit. It's like the channel of the energy. It's like the wires. So that actually bring that energy in that makes that person be. So the name of the parsha, the portion, is reflected. That's the entire theme. That's the entire message. The entire energy of the parsha. So what you're asking is the following. The shalach, the parsha starts with the word shalach, send. What is that referring to? As we mentioned before, it's the episode of the spies. Send out the spies. There's many other mitzvot, things that we mentioned in the portion, not connected in theory to the whole episode of the spies. How does the name Shalach, send forth, the concept of the spies, really reflect that that's the essence of all the rest of the portion, which is other mitzvot? For example, the mitzvah of tzitzit. A mitzvah of tzitzit is in this portion. The mitzvah of challah, to take off challah, special mitzvah when you make bread to take off some of it and dedicate it to Hashem. The mitzvah of challah, that's in this portion. How does that reflective? How is that expressed in this name of Shalach? That's the question that the Rebbe is asking. Let's continue. Go. Yeah.
A superficial response would be that the portion is called Shelach simply because that word appears at the beginning of the portion and the entire portion is named after its opening words. However, even if the opening words are the reason for the name, since this is the name established by Torah, it must reflect the content of the entire portion as explained above.
Yeah, so he says if you want to answer superficially, it just happens to be the first words, which most people assume that's the name of it. Fine. But you can't. It doesn't really reflect. Then if we're calling it the Parsha Shlach, but a divine providence, that's the name it got. That means it needs to reflect the entire essence. So we have to go on to it. What exactly is that? So go ahead, Karmit. Source 7.
וישלח אותם משה לתור את ארץ כנען ויאמר עליהם עלו זה בנגב ועליתם את ההר וראיתם את הארץ מה היא ואת העם היושב עליה החזק הוא הרפה המעט עם מעט הוא עם רב, ומה הארץ אשר הוא יושב בה, הטובים היא עם רעה, ומה הערים אשר הוא יושב בהנה. המבחנים אם במצרים.
מבצרים.
כן, מצרים. ומה הארץ השמנה היא עם רזה, היש בה עץ או עם עין, והתחזקתם ולקחתם מפרי הארץ, והימים ימי ביקורי הנביאים.
Okay, so we learned that what? They had their mission. They were given a mission. The 12 spies given a mission. Check out the land of Israel. Check out if it's what's called, it's good. What's it like? Do they live in the walled city, the big cities? Are they strong or are they weak? Does it have trees? Like, see what's going on over there. Check it out. Check it out. Continue.
ואת העם היושב עליה, החזק הוא הרפה, המעט הוא עם רב, ומה הארץ אשר הוא יושב בה, מניין אתם יודעים כוחם, אם במבחנים הם שרויים, הם גיבורים, בוטחים על כוחם. אם במבצרים חלשים הם, וליבם רע.
So he's saying is that how would you know if they're strong? Says if they're sitting in cities which are not fortified, then we can assume the reason why they're comfortable to sit in cities which aren't fortified is because they think of themselves as we're strong enough to be able to fight off any attacker that might come without city fortifications. We're a mighty enough army to be able to do that without needing a protective wall around it. If they consider that if they're living in fortified cities, then we consider they feel about their strength. They might have some strength, but they feel they're not the ultimate epitome of strength, and therefore they also need fortifications around their city in order to protect them from any attackers. That's what the Medrash explains. How the idea of the walled cities or the unwalled cities will reflect on if they're strong or they're weak. Okay, continue.
וילכו ויבואו אל משה ואל אהרון ואל כל עדת בני ישראל, אל מדבר פרן קדשם, והשיבו אותם דבר ואת כל העדה, ויראום את פרי הארץ, ויספרו לו ואמרו, באנו אל הארץ אשר שלחתנו, וגם זבת חלב ודבש היא. וזה פריה, אפס, כי אז העם היושב בארץ, והערים בצורות גדולות מאוד, וגם ילדי הענק ראינו שם, עמלק יושב בארץ הנגב, והחיתי והיבוסי והאמורי יושב בהר, והכנעני יושב על הים ועל יד הירדן.
Okay, so we said that what? They came back and they gave a report that the people of the land, they're really, they're very strong. Not only that, they saw that tremendously, the real large fortified cities, they began to speak about how great they are, and this continued, but yeah, continue, just skip over that Rashi for a second, I'll get to that in a second, but Yas Kalev. Jump over one paragraph. One paragraph.
ויחס כלב את העם אל משה, ויאמר, עלו נעלה וירשנו אותה, כי יכול נוכל לה. והאנשים אשר עלו עמו אמרו, לא נוכל לעלות אל העם, כי חזק הוא ממנו.
So he said was that they came back and said was that we cannot overcome them. They're too strong for us. Therefore, they came back and said was it's too well fortified. It's too strong, the inhabitants. We're no way we're able to overcome them. Now, Rashi explains why did they preface their words with that it's a land that's zavat chalav udvash, that's a land that has milk and honey. You know why? Because every lie needs some truth. There's always some truth to the lie. If not, it's obviously false. If you have a little bit of truth and then you add some other fluff to it and all that, there. So they started off. It was a land of milk and honey, but we're not going to be able to overcome the big but. So that So they came back and said back, we can't do it. And because of that, Hashem said that you don't want to come, and everyone started crying. We don't want to go to Israel. We want you rather die in the desert. And Hashem says, you know what? No problem. This generation will die in the desert. The next generation will go to Israel. And that's why we spent 40 years in the desert.
Right.
Till we got to the next generation. And you know which day of the calendar this was?
23rd of Sivan.
Nope. 23rd of Sivan was the day that Mordechai got the permission from the king to spread out to all the countries that the Jews could protect themselves. That was 9th of Av. What's it called? Was 9th of Av.
When they went to the land of Israel to check it out.
No, when the spies came back.
On when they came back. 9th of Av.
Came back. That was when they came back.
Okay.
So it became a day of Chiyah L'Doros. Became we should always, the concept of crying is the concept of that something that we cry. And every year from then on the 9th of Av, people would go and lie down. They would go sleep in a grave in the desert, and they would go to sleep there. The reason why they would dig their own graves and go to sleep there is because they thought if we're going to die, make life easier instead of having. They used to, like dig your own grave. So they literally did that. But and some woke up the next morning, some didn't, and therefore that's what happened every year until that decree was finished. So because of that, that was the cleansing process that we had to go through. Now we have to understand something, and this is what the Rebbe is going to address. What did they do wrong? That was their mission statement. You asked. What did you ask them? To go
check it out. Come back.
Check it out. They checked it out, and they came back and gave the report. You're shooting the messenger. You don't like you might not like the report, no problem, but you asked them to give you a report. Yeah?
But they went with no emunah. Because they got scared. They got scared when they saw those giants. That was part of the report. So I'm saying, you're saying what actually is the...
Let's unpack. We'll unpack what you're saying. Go on and continue. Why don't you continue, Dekel?
Why kill the messenger?
Yeah.
Why kill the messenger? We first need to explain the nature of the spy's sin. A simple reading would indicate that the sin was their negative report. The inhabitants are mighty and live in large fortified cities. We also saw giants there. But this is a difficult argument to make. They had been sent specifically to determine what kind of land it is and the character of its inhabitants. Are they strong or weak? Are its cities fortified or not? The report that the inhabitants are mighty was therefore directly in line with the mission they had been given. Why should this be considered a sin? On the contrary, they were fulfilling their assignment to scout the land.
Right. That was what their mission was. Why are we blaming them? So continue. What's the answer?
When the spy thinks he's a general, the explanation is Moses sent them to determine the easiest and most effective way to conquer the land of Israel, and where it would be best to begin the campaign using natural means. Hashem does not perform miracles unnecessarily, so people must do whatever is possible through ordinary means, even when a miracle may ultimately be required, and minimize the need for miracles as much as possible. However, Moses was completely certain that the people would enter the land and conquer it because Hashem had commanded it. The spies, on the other hand, after describing the people, the cities, and the land, went beyond their assignment and drew a conclusion. We cannot go up against the nations, for they are stronger than us. In other words, because they saw the difficulties involved in conquering the land through the natural means, they concluded that it was impossible to conquer it at all, despite the fact that Hashem had commanded them to do so.
So the problem that the spies wasn't that they came back and said that they're strong. Wasn't that they came back and said that we saw big fruit over there. Wasn't back they came back and said that the cities were fortified. That's what they were tasked to do. The problem was when they decided based on what they saw, they said, Lo nuchal lalot. We can't go up. We don't have the ability. That's where they went wrong. Their job was to bring about a report, because we have to do all that we can to do some things naturally, and bring that report as what it's like. And then we'll decide what's the best way to conquer the land with Hashem's help. We're going to conquer the land by Hashem's help. The question is what's the best way for us to go about it? That was their job. That's not what their job. They didn't do that part of their job. They didn't do. They came back and they began to think based on their assessment. They began to say is what we think the result from our assessment is. Or I'm saying they made their. I should say is based on the report they made their own assessment. That's not they weren't tasked to make an assessment. They were tasked to make a report. And because of that was the critical point of their mistake. They were lacking, as Chaim said, the emunah. They were lacking this idea of saying is Hashem told us we're going to be able to conquer Israel. We'll be able to conquer. That's not a question. That's not the question at hand. The question at hand is we just got to know the facts on the ground, and then we'll decide what's the best way. We will succeed. The only question is are we going to go right or are we going to go left? Are we going to send these people first? So that's the question. That's not the question. Won't be if we will succeed or not.
And they forgot who asked them to go and do it.
Right? Well,
right? Because they went, they forgot.
They're forgetting.
I mean, if they had Hashem in mind all the time with that, and now you're going to Israel, and you see these giants, you're not scared. You go, okay, that's fine.
Right.
Hashem's behind us.
Right. One of the explanations of where you see this aspect of what they were lacking was sort of a Chaim saying as well. As it says, the pasuk says is, they saw us like grasshoppers. So too we were in our eyes.
And I said, back in Mitzrayim it happened.
That when it says at the point when they went to spy in Israel, they saw giants who says looked at them as they were grasshoppers. They were really small, and we were in our eyes. We looked at ourselves like grasshoppers. And one of the explanations is you know what? Why you saw themselves as they saw you as grasshoppers?
Because
they
believed
looked at yourself as a grasshopper.
They believed they were grasshoppers.
If they would have looked at themselves in a much greater light, they also would have.
Sorry, when I say Mitzrayim, there's that idea before when we got to the sea, that Hashem said, "Go, walk into the sea."
Oh,
and
that's a belief, right?
It kind of relates, right? To the
connected.
The idea of go to the land of Israel.
You will succeed. You will succeed. You will succeed. Continue, Deco.
Message for life. Based on this, we can understand how the lesson of the story of the spies applies to the Torah and mitzvot as a whole. A fundamental principle in the observance of all mitzvot is the knowledge that since the mitzvot are commands from Hashem, they can certainly be fulfilled. Hashem only asks people things that are within their ability. Even an ordinary human being, if acting rationally, would not command someone to do something that he knew was impossible for that person to accomplish. This is especially true when the command comes from the one who created the person being commanded. A craftsman who makes a tool certainly designs it to fulfill the purpose for which it was made. It is only that human beings can, of course, make mistakes in their assessments. How much more so is this true of Hashem, the King of Kings, and the essence of the goodness and justice, he would never demand from his creation something beyond their capacity. And with Hashem, of course, mistaken assessments are not possible. At the same time, even with this certainty, we may not rely on miracles when fulfill the mitzvot. In fact, an essential aspect of the commandments is that they must be fulfilled through ordinary natural means. Since the ultimate purpose is to make this physical world a dwelling place for Hashem, they must be carried out within the framework of the natural world itself, so that the world becomes a place where the divine is revealed. Therefore, there must be a process of sending and scouting, of examining and preparing in order to determine the best way to fulfill a mitzvah successfully through natural means.
So there's a major, one point is when it comes to this, if Hashem command you to do something, you can do it. Any mitzvah. Hashem commanded us to go accomplish something, put on tefillin, to light Shabbos, to keep Shabbos, to eat kosher. We can do it. We can do it. It could be. That's the first point we got to know. If it's written, that means we can do it. We got to think of how the best way. We got to plan out. We have to work it out. What's the best way to use our mind to think of how to do it? But the question of us, our ability to do it is not a question. Our ability to control ourselves when needed is not a question. We can do it. The question is only what is the best way to do that? That we should use our mind for, to do that. Not the foundational. We should never question that point of our ability to do something or not. That should never be questioned, because if Hashem commanded us, He wouldn't put us in a situation that we can't handle. Even Emily Damari, remember when I met her, she told me, Hashem doesn't put us in a situation we can't handle. We can handle it. We can handle it. Which means if Hashem is asking us from something, we can do it. If not, He wouldn't ask us. It would be He wouldn't put us through such a joke like that. He wouldn't ask us to do that. So we can do that.
100%.
We just have to make that effort to do so. But I think there's a major point, and sometimes we got to also have that mind, a change in our mind of saying is, instead of saying is, I can't do this, I could do this. The question is only how. There was a teacher who one time, it was actually in the States. I think it was in Michigan. There was an inspector who was going to different classes to inspect different classes and see how the teachers were teaching. And he came to one class, and the teacher that day told the children, I want everyone to write on a paper everything I can't do. And I'm going to also write it. So everyone's really, I can't kick a ball, I can't make friends, I can't. Everyone I can't. Fine. Write on a paper. Then she says, I want everyone to take this paper, gather, put it in a box, put it all in a box. They all put it in a box. So then everyone, let's come with me. Come, and they go to the janitor's office, and they take a shovel from the janitor's office, and they go outside to the school garden. And in this school garden, they begin to dig. And they take the box. It says, we're now making a funeral for I can't. They put the box of the I can't into this grave. And the teacher begins to eulogize I can't. His here lies I can't. Of all, it's been a wonderful feeling of the feeling while it's been there, but now I can't is not here anymore. It's not as well known as its cousins. I'm able to, not as famous and not as well known, but unfortunately now I can't is no longer with us. And everyone takes a moment to think about I can't, and they cover the grave. And they wrote out a tombstone for I can't. There lies I can't. and the teacher took all the tombstone and put it on the classroom wall. And when someone would say, is, from now on I can't is gone. Now it's only I could and I should. And whenever one of the students would say, I can't do this, the teacher would say, you remember, I can't is no longer with us. I can't is no longer with us. We were able to do it. So the person, the inspector wrote it, says, I took so much more out of this than I thought I was inspecting her. I learned a lot more from this. So we got to know the first thing that Hashem asks us to do something, we could. That's the first point. We could. Don't say I can't do this. This mitzvah I cannot do. I'm this age, I've gone through this, I can't do it. No. There's something that I feel that it's something important aspect of my life I think is important. I know that's what I want to do, but it seems unsurmountable. No. Hashem told you can do it, you can do it. If you make a decision you want to do it, you can do it. It all comes down to recognizing that you could. You got to figure out what way. You got to use your mind to figure out a way. But don't say, I can't is the eulogize. We can do it. We can do it. Now, there's another aspect of by every mitzvah. Rick, go ahead.
The pre-mitzvah meditation.
Page 10.
Another general lesson, one that applies to all the mitzvah, is found in the instructions. Send men and have them scout the land of Canaan. Before performing any mitzvah, a person should reflect on the meaning of the mitzvah they are about to fulfill. This includes not only the specific purpose of that particular mitzvah, but also the common purpose shared by all the mitzvot, that they are about to be carrying out the will of Hashem. This idea is expressed in the wording of the blessings we recited before performing any mitzvah, who has sanctified us with this mitzvah and commanded us. Through a fulfilling mitzvah, we become sanctified and carry out what Hashem has commanded us. By doing so, we form a bond and connect with Hashem. This blessing is recited before performing the mitzvah, teaching that we should first reflect on the overall meaning and purpose of the mitzvot before carrying them out.
Oh, okay. So which means is that it's important for us to recognize when in our mission, in our what we could do, there's also a mitzvah we said was we could figure out how exactly to go about doing it. But there's a concept of exploring the reason for the mitzvahs, what's about the mitzvahs. We should think about the whole essence of the mitzvahs. There's getting the job done. There's not a question. But we should we should be going into what's the meaning and purpose and everything behind the mitzvah. What's the idea? By different aspects of the mitzvah. That's part of scouring, visiting, exploring the land, exploring the mitzvah. I'm going to go through a few examples which the Alter Rebbe gives in Tanya. Go ahead.
Source 8, Tanya chapter 41, commentary. He should also reflect on how the infinite light of Hashem that transcends all worlds and at the same time fills all worlds is invested in the letters and the wisdom of Torah.
Oh, so when we learn Torah, it says you should recognize how that godly, the essence of God, that unlimited power is in the words of the Torah that you're learning. Continue.
The words of the Torah that he speaks and the Torah wisdom that he studies will contain Hashem's will within them. Before beginning Torah study, a person should think deeply about how the infinite light of Hashem, the divine will, is clothed within the words and teachings of the Torah that they are about to learn.
So you got to think about when you're about to learn the Torah, right? You're going to be doing. You're exploring God's infinite will. You're exploring you're exploring. You're taking within your mind the tremendous spiritual energy which God put in God's which is in God's wisdom, in God's infinite. And the infinite power is within this wisdom that I'm learning right now. Right? Understanding what you're getting yourself into before you start learning. That's very important as important preparation. Continue.
Similarly, if a person is preparing to put on tzitzit or tefillin, he should reflect on how the divine will is invested within these very tzitzit and tefillin that he is about to wear. For it is Hashem's will that a Jew wear tzitzit and put on tefillin.
Oh, so he says that when you put on tzitzit or put on tefillin, you recognize that it's God's will, it's God's essence, because your will is really part of your essence. It's God's essence that's in this this action that I'm doing right now. When I'm putting on tzitzit, I'm fulfilling God's will. God's really with me. When I'm putting on tefillin, I'm fulfilling God's will. God's with me. Hashem's with me.
Sorry.
No problem. I'm
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Through studying Torah or through wearing tzitzit and tefillin, a person draws Hashem's light upon himself, upon the divine soul within him, the portion of Hashem's above that gives life to his body. The purpose of this is that the soul should become united with and absorbed within Hashem's light, surrendering oneself completely to him.
Oh, so which means is when a person puts on tefillin and wears tzitzis, you become one with God's will. You become one with God. You're bringing God. You're connecting to God in a way which is awesome, which is special. That you're actually bonding with His essence. That's a tremendous experience. We just think tefillin. It takes a second or two, but there's a tremendous experience which is happening there. Tremendous experience. Continue, Chaim.
The Rebbe. And the same applies to Torah study. Before studying Torah, one first recites the blessing over the Torah, who has chosen us from among all the nations and has given us his Torah. In saying so, we acknowledge that Hashem has given us the Torah, which is his own wisdom and teaching. The blessing concludes. Who gives the Torah? In the present tense, because the Torah should be regarded as something given anew every day.
That's what we say, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Amim, Hashem chose us, V'nasu lanu Torah Zeh, Baruch Atah Hashem, Noten Torah. Noten is present tense, because we're getting it now.
Now Torah, yeah. All of this is something we should contemplate before beginning to study. This is the lesson of the phrase, and we have them scout the land of Canaan, which was said as preparation for entering the land of Israel. Before fulfilling the mitzvah, we should scout it out. That is, reflect on the meaning, purpose, and the objective of the Torah mitzvah, or the mitzvah we are about to study or perform. This idea of scouting is also reflected in the practical details of the mitzvot themselves. Mm-hmm. Before performing a mitzvah, we need to make sure that we fulfill it properly. For example, for the mitzvah of tzitzit, we must ensure that we have 4 cornered garments and that the fringes have been prepared in the proper manner. We must also study the relevant laws beforehand, since an ignorant person cannot be pious, and we need to know how to practice the mitzvah properly. The same principle applies to Torah study. Before beginning to learn, we should ensure that the environment is appropriate and that we are approaching the study in a proper state of mind. Otherwise, our study may lead to us to mistaken interpretations and incorrect conclusions.
Right, so we have to make sure that we're doing things properly. Part of preparation means we should make sure the mitzvah we're doing properly. We're putting tefillin in the right place. We're lighting Shabbos candles at the right time. You're eating kosher, making sure that you know the laws about that, or it's Shkim Shabbat, or putting on tzitzit, whatever it is. We should know the laws. We should know what we're doing. We should make Torah study. You shouldn't learn. You're not supposed to learn Torah in a bathroom, in a toilet. You're supposed to learn Torah in a pure place. Your state of mind should be good. So that's ideas. Preparation of a mitzvah is very important to make sure that you're able to gain the proper holiness. Continue.
With this, we can understand why the theme of Shelach, the sending of the spies, Mamash, and on a deeper level, the Moses-like spiritual force present within every Jew. It's the fundamental idea underlying the entire Torah portion. All the sections of the portion are called by the name Shelach, and significantly this story appears before the commandments recorded later in the portion. The lessons derived from the sending of the spies serve as a necessary introduction and foundation for all the commandments.
Yes, meaning in order for why is the whole portion which has other mitzvot called shalach is because every mitzvah needs this preparation of like sending a spy, preparing for it. We know we're going to be able to accomplish, like we know we're going to be able to go to Israel, we still Moshe sends spies beforehand in order to prepare for it, to know how, the best way. Every mitzvah needs that concept of when we know we can accomplish a mitzvah, we're connecting to Hashem, we have to prepare, we have to think about what the mitzvah is accomplishing, what it is, how to make sure we do the mitzvah properly. That's part of the purpose of that's part of our obligation of when we do the mitzvah. So therefore, that's the why the entire parsha, the entire portion is called Shalach, to send, reflecting of that the mission that Moshe sent the spies, because that idea of preparing for the mitzvah, preparing for something, is important, reflective of every mitzvah that you do, and we should all prepare for the mitzvah. So I think the first point is we're gonna, meaning we should recognize 2 points that were very important. First of all, recognize
Preparation. No?
that if Hashem commanded us to do it, we can do it. We can. There's no I can't. I could. Secondly, is to prepare for a mitzvah, to learn about it, to understand, to do it properly, to learn halachot, the laws of the mitzvah, to learn to make sure that we what's it called? We to make sure that we're doing properly, and also think about the great, awesome experience, the power, the accomplishment that we're doing by each mitzvah that we do. Prepare to what we do. For Hasidim, Hasidim would very much spend hours preparing to do a mitzvah, to contemplate, think how awesome God is, and also think about what I'm going to accomplish, right? What I'm doing right now, I'm connecting with Him. God, they would think they prepare a tremendous amount, as much as the mitzvah itself. To the point it got so extreme that some people, the mitzvah itself became secondary to the preparation. Just to give you an example of how important, that isn't a correct way of looking at it, but I just want to give you the importance of preparation. So we have to recognize that, and that's why the point of Shalach. We could go back to the beginning of the beginning, which we go through is the different mitzvahs that other mitzvahs that we learn in the Torah of the portion. Let's
What page are you looking at?
let's look at source 2 on page 1. Kermit, why do in the mitzvah of challah?
Source 1, yeah?
Yep.
והשכימו בבוקר
No,
ויעלו.
source 2.
No, source 2. Source 2. My mistake.
אוקיי.
Source 2.
וידבר השם אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת אליהם, בבואכם אל הארץ אשר אני מביא אתכם שמה. והיה באכילכם מלחם הארץ, תרימו תרומה להשם. ראשית ארצותיכם, חלה תרימו תרומה, כתרומת גורן, כן תרימו אותה. מראשית אריסותיכם, תיתנו להשם תרומה לדורותיכם.
Thank you. So it says that you should take from the first of the best and the first of your dough. You should give over to Hashem. As you give it to the God of the Queen. Hafrashat challah. That's the mitzvah. That's the source in Parashat Shlach. That's the source in Parashat Shlach, which is a tremendous meaning about that mitzvah, that we should give the best of what we have. We should give to Hashem, recognize who the bracha comes, who the blessing comes from. 100%? 100%? Tremendous mitzvah. That's another. That right? That's another mitzvah that we have. Now the question becomes a bit. Now we understand what we're trying to say. What's the connection between Parashat Chala and Shalach? Right? But then we answered that because you got to recognize the importance of this mitzvah of Chala as well. As Carmen says, it's a tremendous important mitzvah. Continue. What the next mitzvah we learn about?
והנפש אשר תעשה ביד רמה מן האזרח ומן הגר, את השם הוא מגדף, ונכרתה הנפש ההיא מקרב עמה, כי דבר השם בזה, ואת מצוותו הפר, תכרת, והנפש ההיא עוונה בה.
So he says that a person does a person is going against idolatry or swears in the name of idolatry, that he's going against God.
So it's opposite ממצווה.
It's the you have mitzvot asay, mitzvot lo asay.
לא, המצווה
You
לא
have
תעשה.
commandments
כן.
to do and commandments not to do. This would be one of the commandments of not doing. We shouldn't, right? It's a commandment, it's a mitzvah. Now it's interesting. You should know. One of the idea of we're saying is, when do you fulfill the mitzvah of not eating a cheeseburger? When did you fulfill that mitzvah? Right? When do you fulfill it?
When you walk on the street and
Every time you're driving past
He's saying when you walk past McDonald's.
Every time we drive past
Never
McDonald's,
tempted me. Never. But
So
yes,
one
some
of the
people are
aspects of the
like
opinion is every single second that you don't do it, you're
Yeah.
doing mitzvah.
Yeah, because
That's every time I go out, you know, they put one on the corner.
Right,
of
by
the
you,
street.
by you,
So when
by
I
you.
up and down, I'm doing like
That's it, every second. Think about it.
Yes, Rabbi, it's a good question. So mitzvah לא תעשה when you don't do it. So but
honestly,
you
I've never-
So according to some
constantly
opinions,
doing
that's
the
you're
mitzvah.
constantly doing the mitzvah.
Okay, interesting. Because-
Constantly doing the
כן.
mitzvah.
כן, אז הזכות is like doing one מצווה. זה כבר לעשות מצווה אחת, למרות שזה כל הזמן,
נכון.
it's all the time מצווה.
But no, meaning you're constantly doing that mitzvah.
Okay, so basically the people can be really bad people, don't do it, but the fact they don't eat cheeseburger, for example, they're doing the mitzvah, so they're doing mitzvah. Even
Yeah.
though they...
We say is Poshe Yisrael Malay Mitzvah Kirimon, the Gemara says. There's even the sinners of the Jewish people are filled up with mitzvot like a limon is filled up with seeds.
Yeah, okay.
We all do. All of us have good and bad within us. And even if you say people do a lot of bad things, they also do mitzvot.
Even unintentionally, the fact that they don't swear at God, God forbid, or
Say,
something
they
that
do
the
mitzvah.
mitzvah.
Do mitzvot. Other people would say is when you have the opportunity to do same, but I'm just to give you an idea.
Is it the same reward, or for example, mitzvah that you don't do, or mitzvah that you do? Sachar ve'onish. For example...
We don't know what schar v'onesh means, reward and punishment. That's Hashem understands
Okay.
the value. We say that's what we says. We say is that we say that the schar of a mitzvah is a mitzvah and schar v'era is a v'era.
כן, סחר, כן.
We don't. As the Rambam writes, we don't know how Hashem weighs each mitzvah. And that's already.
So the mitzvah, yeah, I know schar mitzvah, עבירה. I know that, but in terms of mitzvah, they're all equal, same of...
Well, we look at certain mitzvahs have a greater impact in regards to the damage that we can do. So, for example, is certain mitzvahs we see by the punishments that it's a tremendous greater
But
damage
punishments
that
that
it
go
does.
according to Hashem, or
Well,
it's with some
there's
mitzvot,
certain
it's
things in
written like
mitzvahs are
mitzvah,
written, what
mitah, or something like
Yes,
this,
there's
or it
certain
says here
mitzvot.
actually
Yeah,
here.
Yeah. So we
If
see
someone
certain
swears
mitzvot,
God.
the damage and the correction and the cleansing needs to happen is much more serious.
Sure.
Correct. And then one more mitzvah, continue, Carmen, finish off, mitzvah of tzitzit.
והנפל אשר תעשה ביד
לא, ויאמר השם.
סורי. ויאמר השם אל משה לאמור, דבר על בני ישראל ואמרת אליהם ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת. והיה לכם לציצית וראיתם אותו וזכרתם את כל מצוות השם ועשיתם אותם ולא תטורו אחריי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם.
So it says that here the mitzvah, tzitzit, and we should remind us not to stray after our hearts and our what's good, but rather we should have to follow the mitzvot and follow what Hashem says. So these are all the mitzvot. That's why we had the questions, right? But we recognize that every mitzvah we're able to do, and we should prepare for every mitzvah. Have a wonderful week. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
תודה.